All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. I hope everyone's ready for another week. It's Monday. We are getting into the pre-market. Of course, 1 hour from now, we will see the stock market open. Daylight savings time for so many people around the world now. And unfortunately, for the Australian viewers out there, I'll just say this straight away. Yeah, it's
many people around the world
1:30 a.m.
Unfortunately, for the Australian viewers out there, I'll just say this straight away.
Going to be pretty brutal.
It's many people around the world now.
1:30 a.m.
Unfortunately, for the Australian.
Just give me 1 sec, guys. Just going to fix the audio. Okay, that should be a little bit better. Hopefully that's now fixed the audio. And we can get started. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. And yeah, it's an exciting week to be here. So yes, for people around the world, just remember the US has now gone into daylight savings time. Obviously, that will change a lot of people's openings. And for Australia, as I said, 1:30 a.m. So Ric Flair's here. We've got Mo, we've got Brad, Truly Messiah. We've also got Pradeep, C19, Singapore $3 super sticker. Thank you very much for joining us. And as we know, the markets have begun a little bit of a rally. And of course, the US dollar has started to weaken. So we have a lot to talk about because, of course, today we'll be going through on the show what's going on from a stock market perspective, obviously a crypto market, commodities, and everything else. So I'm pretty excited to go through it all because I think there's a lot of connecting pieces that we need to understand in these markets at this stage. Pradeep C19, thank you very much. Hey all, he says, good to have you here. Let's talk about dollar index to start off with. So where do we find ourselves with the DXY? Well, we find ourselves on an open where the dollar index could strengthen. Effectively, it's on that kind of previous little bit of a tick up where we saw the market come down, find some pretty serious levels. And just want to test with the chat as well, just because is the audio a little bit clearer today? Is this better than normal? I just want to make sure because yeah, this is probably the first test I've put through on the chat. I just want to make sure it is better for the live streams. So yes, we have the demand. We have the demand again. We're seeing the demand. Now let's break down this small time frame. I want to go into like the 5-minute and see whether it's any better. People are saying it's clear and it's good. That's good to hear. Yeah, so I actually quite like the idea of dollar index strength in this session. We haven't seen it yet. We don't know, but I am certainly marking out these two little zones as levels I would like to see broken above. So I'd like to see this one kind of 10.62.5 zone taken out, and then that just kind of further signify some strength coming through from the dollar index. If that does happen, of course, that could be theoretically bearish for stocks, though we do have our own plan on stock markets a little bit later on. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. That's going to be good. The way we see the DXY, though, at the moment is there's some potential strength that's going to come through. Now, it's obviously been just a sell the whole way with the way DXY has been trading now in the last couple of sessions. You can see here the 2-hour chart just down. But this is the first level that you could have some turnaround. So we're looking for that idea to play out potentially in these markets. Pradeep C19 says, very Singapore $5. Thank you very much. Very clear. Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad it's coming through quite a lot. YouTube Tim says, I'm bullish till the 10th. Why the 10th, YouTube? Until the inflation number. Let's quickly have a look at some of this news that we do have for the week. So here's the dates. We've got Monday, the 7th. I'm now in the future, guys. I'm already on the 8th. We're on Tuesday the 8th right here. So we obviously have a few ECB, FOMC members. Then we scroll through Tuesday. We've got the all-day election Congress stuff. And then the Thursday, the 10th. So this is the number that we're just talking about there. We have the CPI core CPI numbers. And this is going to be critical because, of course, 8% is what's expected. You know, I'm surprised they actually still expect it to be that high. I would have thought maybe the revisionists might be thinking like 7.8 or even 7.9. Obviously, a 0.5% increase core inflation expected. If it's better, the markets theoretically should rally. If it's worse, get ready for the pain train because that's probably the way it's going to go. We know this is one of the biggest moving bits of market conditions I think we've had pretty much all year. Specifically, the last 4 or 5 have been blockbusters, and what we might do is have a look at those later on because they were blockbusters. Go through the dates when we saw the inflation numbers, and it gets crazy out there. And I think we need to be aware of that. So let's break down the DXY again. We're in demand. Okay, that's the first step. Now we'll go over to a currency. Let's just pull up the euro. So theoretically, if dollar index is in a demand, then euro should be in a supply. And I've got a question to the chat. Do you think that we are at a point of resistance or supply potentially here on the euro? What does the chat think? Chat, tell me what's going on. Energy might drop after midterms, says Willimus Wallis. Energy, yeah, pretty large moves here, moving into obviously the high for oil. And oil's kind of at that resistance at the moment. How do you feel about crypto this week? We'll take a look at that a little bit later. Don't worry. And what's your take on China's current bullish run? Look, I think it's a play on potential pivots. Let's say we don't like to use the word pivot very often, but I guess it's playing on that. So people say EU in the range. So EU is certainly not showing a clear sign of rejection yet. Obviously, we'd need the DXY to strengthen for this to weaken. And you'll notice I've got a little alert set underneath here. And I'll probably be looking for underneath this 99.20 or even this little zone down here this week to show us that there's further weakness to come after rallies. So I'm kind of looking for weakness, rally, or weakness, rally, and maybe to sell those if that does occur. And of course, that's what you have to do. You have to be flexible. So dollar index, potentially at some bullishness. Gold potentially at a turn point here, at least temporarily. This is only for a temporary session if it does. What you don't want to see, gold should theoretically already be selling off. So the way that it's selling off so far is not very weak. In fact, it's starting to kind of chop. If this breaks to a new high here and takes out this high, you've got to basically think that gold is going to continue to move bullish. Dollar index probably going to continue to go bearish. It's very important gold turns right now. It needs to turn down. And if it doesn't, then that would be, I guess you would say, semi-unusual. Gold theoretically should be weakening through the session as we're talking about it. That's the way these kind of markets looking at this stage. Ravs coming in with Australian $5. You're keen on the US market to be up at 12:40 a.m., Ravs. Me buying Tesla, me buying all the Tesla. That's what Ravs says. He says he's not backing down. He's like Tesla Harry. Thank you very much, Rabs, for the super chat. We'll look at Tesla in just a few moments. So let's move through some other things that we know. We know that US 2-year yield, it continues to kind of be pretty high. We know it's not as high as it was at 5.11, but this will be in focus this week. So I think everybody that's here, the 850 of you joining us, thanks so much for joining us, by the way. Give us a thumbs up. Smash the like button, guys, if you can. It does help us out. Basically, this will be in focus all week. It always is. And this is something that everyone's looking at. Now, if we see rates going up and the stock market's going up, that usually means that it's probably a false trap and we should be looking towards shorts in the stock market. For now, very minute, 0.81% is not really going to, change anything. The difference between the yield inversion, though, is starting to get quite wide. If I type in US 02Y versus, let's say, US 10Y, and we put both of these together, if we look at the inversion, you'll notice it's pretty big, and weekly wise, it's certainly up there. I mean, ever since 88, we've been in this inversion for a while, but still very extreme inversion shows sickness in the economy. And that's still the way the bond market is currently floating. Let's now look at the S&P 500. I've got some alerts set for this, pretty similar to the weekend video. I don't think really anything changes too much if you did manage to watch that one. I'm liking the idea that the S&P 500 may rally a little bit more, and I want to see a turn somewhere in here. Now, I'm not going to be incredibly specific on the price. I don't know exactly where it is, but I do believe that somewhere in here, if a turn's going to happen, it should happen around this zone. And the main reason why is because at the moment, the market is bullish temporarily. 5 minute, 15 minute, 1 hour, pretty much up to the 1 hour. Everything's saying bull, 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 bull. We've even got like a nice little basing kind of formation that's happening here. But as it comes back into this level, remember, it's sold for a reason. That was the Fed. Effectively, this is the Fed. This is non-farm payrolls. Non-farm payrolls came down twice to grab some kind of order. Well, at least that's what we think. And then the market's now allowed to rally back up. So somewhere around that 38.40, which we've seen heavily traded in recent weeks, and 38.50, this area here has been heavily traded. And how do we know that? Let's look at the structure. Look at this. If we think about it, where are a lot of the candles? They're sitting around in this zone here. They're sitting around in this zone here. So heavily traded area, potentially the market could come up to that and maybe find some weakness. And I still have left this 36.77 on the charts. And I think a lot of the reason why, for all of you out there asking, is because that's one of the most heavily traded areas as well on this way up. And we really should have made it down to there. And I question why this happened. Did it happen just to pull it early so that it could move up and move back down later on? At least that's the current theory that I've got in these markets. Copper went wild too. Yeah, all the commodities went pretty wild. So some theoretical cases this week. And we do have a poll going, and I'll have to just jump over and grab my YouTube link so I can have a look at this poll. Let me just quickly pick this up. And make sure you vote in the poll if you can. It always helps us out to see how many of you are bullish and bearish for the week. A lot of people like to see that. If you have any suggestions on polls as well, always happy to answer them. So far you've got bullish 53%, bearish 47. We've got 439 votes, which is a good amount of votes. So I guess that's where we'll close the poll before I change anybody's opinion. So 54% bullish in the end, 46% of you are bearish. Interesting. So the market's overall moving towards the upside. That's what I favor, at least over the next couple of sessions. I then favor the idea of weakness. And it's because of the nature of how this has turned around so far. We're going to go like a high, a low, a higher high, a lower low. And I just kind of think that the market's kind of doing a turn on us. And remember, this is the Fed. This is non-farm payrolls. Non-farm payrolls wasn't that much difference to really what was the expectation. Ultimately, the inflation number is going to really do it. So even if it does this, and we end up here coming into the inflation number, or we end up here coming into the inflation number, all that we know is that inflation number is going to most likely create some incredible volatility. And for anyone that's scalping, for anyone that doesn't have bigger stop losses or a bigger plan, you could have problems here. How's options flow this week? Options flow is something that we'll certainly look at. We'll check that out in just a second, God Serens. So that's the general consensus. Now, if markets kind of get above this high, again, I'm open to this idea. We've talked about the squeeze many times. Remember our first initial play together, we all came up with this idea. The idea was that we wanted to see the market squeeze, and it squeezed to our first zone, and it's so far has turned around. Should the market wish to squeeze further? I think that if we get a new high now, it's unlikely to stop here. It's probably more likely to go towards that 4,100, which we've talked about. So keep your options open. As traders, you have to be flexible. You might say, I think this is shorting. Okay, fair enough. Where are your key levels? Are they in here? If it goes to a new high, what are you going to have to do? Maybe you have to convert to a buy for a period of time and then recommit to maybe your short concept later on. You want to be flexible with your bias. And this actually annoys so many of you out there. I see it in the comments. People say, You're like a flip-flop. I said, well, you kind of have to flip-flop sometimes. If you see the market go the opposite direction, what are you going to do? We have to flip-flop. You know, they don't call it the flip for nothing in technical analysis. Some people do the flip trade, and it's what you have to do. Sometimes you will have bigger opinion, and that opinion can run months. And I'm actually starting to talk about gold. I think we're going to talk about gold a little bit later on for the potential multi-months here. But at this stage, US 500 certainly could rally. Overall is still in the weakness on these multiple time frames, but the short time frames are saying bull, and I'm looking for some turn point in here. And that's at least my opinion for this week. Let's now move over to the US 100. What have we got going on there? So the US 100, a little bit different. It looks disgusting. It looks very weak overall. This could be all part of distribution. Obviously, if it does end up breaking up, at the same time, you'd expect the S&P 500 to be going that higher point. Imagine if it does this. Remember, guys, if this occurs and you see a hump that looks like this on the right-hand side, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So the reason why that would be is because it'd be a false break up and then we get a new low. That's effectively, well, can anyone tell me in the chat what that would look like? So if we have a market that kind of goes like this, bounces, hits this, then sells off, what do you think that looks like? Freezes refrigerator, Tesla rally, question mark. We'll check it out soon, don't worry. Also, thank you very much to almost the 1,100 people from around the world joining us for this stream. Much appreciated, guys. It's very early for the Australian audience out there. And I know, of course, it's changed. So that's a big thing. It's a trap. Yeah, pretty much. It's a trap. We'd be looking at some kind of distribution. And when the low is formed, that would most likely start a cascade effect. And the reason is because it would trap the longs in the position. Remember, be reactive to that as well. So this is a classic kind of case of that. You've got a market that's made a new high. It's come in. It's suddenly made, you know, a new low, and then it cascades down. The reason why? Because there's trapped longs in this position. So if you're not in it and you can recognize when a trap is being placed, you can often get involved in that. Being reactive to traps is a huge deal. Pradeep, C19, Singapore, $5. Today is my birthday. Well, happy birthday, Pradeep. Happy birthday. I don't know if I have any sound tunes. 1 second. Let me see what I got here. Oh, I don't know what that's doing. Okay. I don't know what I just pressed, but yeah, that may have played a sound. I'm not sure, Pradeep. But yeah, happy birthday, mate. And I hope someone in the chat gives you a bit of a some happy birthday, maybe balloons or something. So yes, US 100, again, sitting kind of at that resistance. If we do break up, be careful to see how that then ends up breaking up. Does it break up and then instantly start breaking down? If it does, distribution, part of the bigger circle, probably going very bad. So I think worthwhile setting some alerts. Let's do some alerts here. I'm going to set an alert down the bottom because I wouldn't mind knowing if the market goes down. This is what you all need to do. We all need to set alerts. Don't waste your time all the time in front of the charts, guys. We do need to set alerts. We have to think about our plan, think about our strategies, and then come back to it should they be hitting. It was like a Christmas tree last week during non-farm payrolls for me, and especially the Fed, Jerome Powell. It was, I woke up in the morning, I was like, whoa, because it was just exploding with alerts. It was wild out there. Quantum Mechanic, $1.99. Good morning. Looking forward to the US conference. Yes. So big announcement, guys. If you're interested, we will be doing a conference in the US next year. I'm coming to Vegas. It's going to be pretty damn cool. So if you're interested, we'll be getting some information together for that. We've got some great speakers. We know a few people in the US, some big fund managers and stuff. So that'll be an awesome event, and I look forward to putting it on. So yeah, Vegas, probably late August, September next year, 2000. I know that's a while away, but you know, it takes a little while to get the conference ready. We've got to get the good speakers, you know, not crappy speakers. We need good speakers coming through. So we have to organize all of that. But it's going to be a massive event, and I look forward to being in Vegas and also trying that Chick-fil-A. Yeah, need the Chick-fil-A. Lee Trader says, come to New York. We will take you to Wall Street. I will be coming to New York as well. So I can confirm that I personally will come to New York at some point after that conference, probably. Vegas, most likely end of August, early September. Pradeep C19 Singapore, $5. Thanks for all the wishes. No mention, please. Continue your content. Oh, well, anyway, I did it anyway, Pradeep. Okay, thank you very much. Let's continue to go through here. So Dow, this alerted us to the potential of the short the other day. We have the Dow trend line. We're going to watch this. Do I have alerts above? Yes, because I need to know, just like you need to know, if this breaks to the upside. Well, wait a second, what's going on now? Is that telling us that we're going to that 4,100 rally? So we do want to synergize it all with these ones, guys. By the way, do you like the idea of going through it this way? I'm not too sure. Like usually we do different stuff and we just kind of rattle off things, but I want to just tell you the way I'm thinking about the market this week. I thought it's a bit more the way I do the private streams, and I thought you might like it this way. So US 30, yeah, certainly there. I don't want it above here if we're looking for bearish kind of shorts, because that could push much further. And then all of a sudden we're talking about a 4,100 potentially on the SPY. What else is there really to worry about? VIX is up today, so 3.34% VIX is up. However, of course, we're seeing the stock market also rallying. So that's just telling you that we're starting to get down there in the VIX. We're hitting around 25 in the VIX, so it's a little bit bigger thing. And yeah, I feel like that's important. Like once we're in the middle, remember that idea that we've always had, or we've had for a little while here, which is the VIX hasn't hit 45. Now, if we scroll through and we think about previous times, of course, a lot of people are pointing towards this and then potentially capitulation. Be open to the idea. It's not necessarily true. We don't know. But if the inflation goes bad again, then we get new lows on that Nasdaq. That's going to push through pretty hard. Let's talk about Tesla. Tesla, 208. Quantum Mechanic, $1.99. Bring your personal money printer to Vegas. We just need to go find Jerome and invite him to Vegas, and then he'll come with the real money printer. That's what we need to do. Rahem says all that matters is WWE stock. What's going on with WWE stock? I just know Vince McMahon quit. And that, well, quit or got kicked out. I'm not sure. But either or. I know the stock went up after that. So 208 pre. Look, this stock, frankly, doesn't look too healthy. It is on the lows. There's no question that you're kind of around those buy zones. And if you're a long-term investor, maybe you like this kind of price. Maybe you do. If the stock market does turn, though, so let's say it rallies and turns, based on this current market, based on what we're seeing on tech, you've got to think it's probably going lower. And again, we've talked about 180 for a while. Today, though, my guess probably buys. And the reason is mostly from the technical side. If you think about the support and the fact that we're holding up. If we believe the SP 500 is going a little bit higher, then probably for now anyway, Tesla could find better. But let's ask the chat. Chat, what do you think about Tesla? Do you think it's going to hold this level, or is the fourth time basically the fall off here? Mohammed says, look at that massive head and shoulders on Tesla stock. It's very bad. So I assume you're using a really high time frame one. And yeah, I know the one you're saying. It's this weekly, yeah? So here's the left shoulder that Mohammed's saying. Here's the head, and here's the right shoulder. So, of course, if this becomes the true reality, which some things have fallen like this year, you type and take that head and you work that out, and it would push you back to basically wiping off all the way back into 2020, 2019. I'm not necessarily saying it can't work like this. It could happen. It is actually possible. It depends a lot on how this stock performs out of growth. Now, we've had one earnings that just slightly didn't meet expectations. If you start to stack that in this current rate environment, if you don't do it, it will continue down and down and down. And that's going to be a big one. That's going to be a huge, huge deal if it does occur. Oculus Quest App Lab NT, $30. Thank you very much. What do you think of the recent semi rallies? Yeah, so semiconductors have been very interesting. I think it's based on the Chinese thing as well to a degree, and maybe the change in some of the rhetoric there. So yeah, semiconductors have been doing okay. Let's look at semiconductors by checking the ETF. Here's the the bottoming. This is one of the most sold off, of course, markets. It's come off that low down here. And more notably, we had NVIDIA finding some real strength. And I do like NVIDIA's case. We've got the metaverse, not that I care about the metaverse, but what I do think is it's very nice to see that Facebook are basically going to commit to purchasing a whole bunch of stuff that's going to be good for NVIDIA. NVIDIA also managed to kind of change their business a lot. So look, I love this stock. It clearly went underneath a key zone. It rallied off that level, but unfortunately, we are finding ourselves again at the supply zone. So this is that high resistance. I do find that somewhere in here, NVIDIA could find significant weakness, and it's had a beautiful rally, no doubt. This is one that you put like a little check mark on and say, nice work. That's pretty good. But still, look, I mean, it depends whether you're an investor or a trader. If I was a trader, I'd say this is getting close to the resistance, and somewhere around here, I would expect weakness. I wouldn't maybe trade that weakness, but I'd be wanting a cheaper price. I like the rally though, and I think it's relatively significant. That's 1, 2, 3 weeks of fairly significant rallies here in NVIDIA, and it's almost made a new high, and it's set to do it today, set to fill that final gap that's here, which closes at 144.96. So it could be a zone to watch for the session. Fair enough, Lee Trader. So he says, my charting says that ES may go a tiny bit higher. Yep, well, that's kind of what I think, maybe 1%. But the 3-day says we are not. So maybe we go sideways and trade inside previous candles. Well, I think we'll trade inside the range ahead of something like the inflation numbers. People are saying Tesla will never hit 0 or any of those levels. Look, you never say never. I've seen weird things happen. Of course, 0 is probably ridiculous. That's not going to happen. I'm not going to say anything's not possible, but yeah, with the Tesla chart, the most key thing is I still think 180 is highly likely to find buyers. And even if that head and shoulders did play out, there are other little head and shoulders. You know, here's one that's just this little kind of thing here. Now, it doesn't come off the top, but again, you can kind of see a break here is significant. And considering where every other stock is right now, if we priced most stocks where they are based on, technically, that's where it should be. So it should be about 123-ish. So if we fail to hold 180, you've got to watch this area. You cannot think that there's anything safe here. There's no safety on Tesla between these two zones. At least I don't think so. 180 to that 150 zone, no safety. So if it fails to hold 180, could go all the way back into 140. And maybe that's the opportunity a lot of you guys are looking for. The head and shoulders all the way to whatever it was, $20, probably unlikely. This company has built pretty heavily. But yeah, I mean, this is what Google's doing. Google's back at these levels. Let's actually take a look around the market just to see this sickness. Apple, one of the biggest stocks in the market. Well, it is the biggest stock. 136 pre-market, down 1.43%. Let me read that again. I don't even know if that's real. That seems crazy considering the market's up, yeah? 1.4% down on Apple pre-market. Yes, it's in the demand zone, but what happens if this tips over? What happens if Apple goes, okay, yeah, we're done holding this, and we enter back into these 120 or 112s? All of a sudden, we've got the Nasdaq probably making a new low. And that, as we just talked about before, could send things spiraling. So we're at a very close point. We've got a lot of compression coming in. Amazon, look at the price. Some of you haven't upgraded this probably for a while. We're sitting at 88. Does that look like a strong buy zone? I asked the chat this. It's the middle of all this area, so it's probably fair, but it's not an extreme level yet. And again, I've got alerts set for the extreme. So that's a pretty big deal. Isaac B says, no way Tesla's going down that far. I'm not sure what price you're talking about. Are you talking about the one I just said, or are you talking about some insane price down below? Amazon's still a high PE. There's a lot of high PEs. I mean, Amazon by PE ratio is probably not even, it'd be mad because of their earnings potential is not very high. Google is in that they keep losing and they keep spending money on stuff. Google here, swipe those lows, fill that gap. It's again rallying, but what price is it back to? August of 2020. So what I'm just guess I'm getting at here is there's a lot of these big companies you probably wouldn't have thought at 150 are going to 83. Just always think of it. Oh, I didn't think that would happen, but it did. Look at Cloudflare. Do you think Cloudflare would be back at $41? Probably not. Did you think, well, maybe you probably did think this one was possible. But let me just bring up Exhibit A because I'll use Roku. Did you think Roku would be $50 back at 2017 prices? I doubt many people did. And I'm not comparing them because they're different businesses. And I've always hated this one with a passion. So I'm sure I'm never getting Roku sponsorship. But the main reason is because it was completely overpriced. It needed compression. And I don't even know what their edge is. I still don't know what their edge is. They made a Weird Al Yankovic movie. Is that a good movie, chat? I'm not sure. Maybe the Weird Al Yankovic movie is good and Roku will be saved. But it's across the board. There were so many wild sell-offs actually on the last sessions. And it's through a lot of these stocks. Here's another one. Look at Twilio. Twilio lost, it's now $42 back to prices of the IPO back in 2016. Pretty wild. People in the chat have any, and PayPal, exactly. Net down heavy. Yeah, Net's a pretty good company too. Quite a few of you hate Roku. Obviously, there's some haters. You know, one of the other stocks I don't like. Let's have a look at what that one's doing. $4. Nice. Where's that guy? I want him back. The one that was at $55. We made the bet. I said it's going to 20 at least. And he's like, no, 300. Well, unfortunately, it's $4.91. So we're both wrong. But yeah, this is the story. Never forget these things, guys. Always keep them in the back of your mind. So anyway, we don't want to talk about these types of stocks. Let's have a quick look here at crypto just to get a bit of an idea of how the weekend ended up going. What happened to crypto? So crypto moved up. And yeah, I kind of feel still like this zone is very possible. Am I trading it? No. Do I think it's still long? Well, I mean, theoretically, it's still holding these lows, and that's the most important thing. I'm not going to change this alert. I like this alert a lot. If we get underneath here, then of course, I believe we're starting to short off, and this is going to be a critical point. This 20,000 for Bitcoin, still favoring the idea of it getting back up to 22 and then potentially jumping off. But that's the way we see it right now. Let's have a look at the 2-hour chart. Okay, so it's just been falling. It's back on that kind of demand zone where it all turned. If the stock market does end up finding rally, potentially crypto does it. But this is incredibly lethargic. It's just not finding the buyers it once did during the weekend, during the lower volume times. It's just not able to do it. It's a big one. Yeah, I mean, I just think Bitcoin... I've told you my theory on it. I just don't think it can find its base just yet. I feel like its base will come, and I still would like to see its base before Feb of 23. And I will do a rundown on it. But remember, it's a lot of it's to do with halving, and we're following a very similar cycle. Quantum Mechanic $1.99. Isn't Google spending better than Meta money? Spending better than Meta money burn? I don't know, actually, Quantum. Didn't look. Bit like PLTR. Oh, yeah. Let's have a look at PLTR. Of course, Palantir earnings today. This stock never ceases to always go down, it seems, during earnings. Look at these earnings. Red, unfortunately. But only down 2%. So that's not too bad. Could be a lot worse. But yeah, Palantir, it's a great story. But this is when this is one where you fall in love with the story. I remember we all had big wars in the chat about this one last year. And yeah, I never really fell in love with the story because I don't really care for any story. The only story I like is Microsoft's story. Okay. but that's just because I'm totally biased there, which means I shouldn't trade it. What instead is you should be looking at is, okay, what's the competitors to this? How big is the moat? On top of that, I only really look for moats. If I'm going to invest in something, I want it to be untouchable. And generally, I like to have 5+ years on the market. Okay. This is a big one for me. 5+ years. If there's an IPO in the US, if I'm in pre-IPO, cool. If I'm in post-IPO, at least minimum 12 to 18 months later. Otherwise, you get burnt. And again, it happens time and time again, especially for tech. Thank you for the chat there. Tom, you Bill Gates lover? No, I just think it's got a massive moat. I don't think governments can touch Microsoft anymore because they do so much of the cybersecurity side. While Amazon, even Apple potential, well, probably not Apple, but Amazon, Google, Facebook, they're all open to scrutiny. I just don't think Microsoft's open to it. I mean, maybe the chat disagrees. What do you guys think? Do you think that they can? Indian dude on Michigan Trail says Meta mass layoff will be good for the stock. The stock won't go badly usually off layoffs. Layoffs means, although that's counter to what a lot of people think, layoffs doesn't necessarily mean bad things. It just means reshuffles. And it means cutting at least from a business perspective, often it's cutting the fat and then bringing in hopefully the right things. So the market sees it as a positive generally. Dollar breaking down. All right, let's have a look at that DXY. I can see that gold's gone back up. Yeah, so let's have a look at the dollar index. Still in the demand zone, but come on, didn't break down yet. Come on, you're getting me all excited. It's still just sitting in here. So I'm looking for it to obviously turn, and we'll see whether that can happen. Employees are expensive. Hell yeah. Elon took a flamethrower to Twitter employees. That's true. Double bottom on Microsoft. Let's have a look at the stock that I like very much. Yeah, it's fair to think this found like a little bit of buyers here. Double bottom, not yet. I mean, maybe really small time frame. So if you're on your 5 minute or something, you could say double bottom or some kind of little miniature Wyckoff. I mean, obviously here it is. There's the Max Payne kind of concept, and you're seeing that little miniature Wyckoff potentially up into here where it could find sellers again. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Microsoft lower though. Only thing going up is oil. Yeah, so oil's right at that resistance level. So let's have a look at that oil. So here's the oil. Here's the previous resistance, 93 kind of dollars. We'll use the daily just to illustrate this area. So you'll notice the previous highs here and from October, and oil coming back with a vengeance, back up to these highs. Now let's have a look at a 5 minute chart here for oil. So oil could still short from here, but it cannot make a new high. If it makes a new high, there's a really good chance that it actually continues to rally. And you'll notice I've got a set alert above 94. I might actually bring that down because I would like to know if oil makes a new high here. I would favor, even with this madness, how it looks, I still would like to see gold and oil drop here. But yeah, they should have already dropped. So this is where they still just should have started dropping. And they have to really drop right now because, again, they should already be down here if this signal is going to be working out better. Bouncing off says hit the like button for Tom. Appreciate that bouncing off. And also appreciate the 1,434 viewers out there that are coming into the show. It's always good to have you here. Bitcoin Indian dude on Michigan Trail says Bitcoin breakout could be a precursor for hyperstocks breakout. The strange thing about that Indian dude is we basically we kind of saw Bitcoin crack it on Friday, and at the same time we had so many hyperstocks still failing. You know, there's some things I haven't even looked at in a while. I mean, admittedly, this one is something I haven't looked at. Where is ARK? What's it even doing? Just basing, I assume, because at least Tesla's still holding for it. Yeah, look at that. So still just down on these lows back in 2018, 2020, and where it's been. So relatively speaking, it's holding okay. But so many great quality hyper stocks are making new lows. I mean, here's Crowd, new low formed off this low. That's a good stock. You know, it's not a bad stock. It's a good stock. It's just too high on the valuation, and they're crushing these PS ratios down. John Galt, thank you very much. Appreciate it. That's a scary image. That image looks really terrifying, John Gold. Thank you very much for the donation. Appreciate that one, man. And then Quill Owl, $5 super sticker. Thank you for the donation there as well, Quill Owl. Appreciate that. So again, can we give a bit of a clap there for John Gold? $20 American. That's like hundreds of Australian dollars. That at least affords a couple of Chick-fil-A's there. Oh, he has a question here. Do you think China is dumping US dollars to help the yuan? DXY correlation to yuan over the week is interesting. I would say so, something like that. Yeah. I mean, the whole China situation is obviously this is a massive look. I'll tell you how I see it. We are in currency wars. Whether you want to admit it or not, the next decade, or at least the next 4 to 5 years, is a currency war. Okay. Everybody is going to talk about basically these two big currencies, the Chinese yuan and the American dollar, fighting each other. And it's all about transactions. Remember, at the moment, America has economic superpower. They have the USD, the powerhouse. Yeah. And what do we know? When we do a transaction overseas, what do people want? Do they want Australian dollars where I'm from? Probably not. Do they want yen? I wouldn't want yen. So no, they probably don't want yen. What do they want? They want the USD. USD. So when we do transactions often, I think it's some crazy statistic, like between 70 and 80% of most of transactions are actually done in US dollars. So that's massive powerhouse. And we saw it with the oil contracts last year. And you're going to see this continuously go through the next decade. Effectively, we are going to see China demand that it's going to be done in RMB. They want RMB, RMB, RMB. You will do the contract in RMB and we'll buy it. Otherwise, no deal. And that's the beginning of the weakening of the US dollar. And that's what currency wars are. Quantum Mechanic, $1.99. What are your thoughts on March 2009 type low? I don't know what you mean there, Quantum Mechanic. Maybe someone can enlighten me. What's type low? Are you talking about the low of the GFC? Wait, if the economy crash, yen will go up. Why are housing stocks going up? Doesn't make sense to me. Again, look, it's I don't know. I didn't look at the housing stocks. Maybe they're oversold. Maybe this is just like some kind of AR rally. Might have to have a look at them. I use my USD in my transactions in the back alleys. All right, Kevin, very good. The back alleys, eh? The type of low that was similar to the GFC low. Oh, okay. So you'd have to like load up the SPX, have a look at the low that you formed in the GFC. So if we scroll over here, we have a look at the GFC. That had a secondary kind of spike it. So theoretically, if we were talking about where we are in comparison, this is actually the area that we're synergized with at the moment. So that's actually the area. We haven't seen this one. See, a lot of people say, well, I want to get the bottom of these markets. Well, if you have a market that drops in a matter of, what is this, 3 weeks? Let's just understand this. 32% down. Now, it did end up going further, okay? But it dropped 32% in a matter of weeks. If I accidentally bought that for my long-term investment, do you think I'd be sad? The answer, clearly, no. There's no way I'd be sad. Why would I be sad? This is awesome. I would be like, yeah, that was pretty good. I picked the bottom. No one needs to know about this one that happened over here. It didn't happen, yeah? But that's because this is the capitulation low. That's the watershed moment. There's further fear that happens, but some markets actually were turning when this one went lower. It was really interesting. It's an interesting, check. But at this point, that's where we're technically synergized. I assume you're talking about down here where we've got this rally. I don't think it looks that similar at this stage. there are probably the 70s bottom looks the most similar. So here's where we are. I don't think that necessarily looks the same. We didn't even make a very fearful kind of sell-off yet. What do you think about SoFi, Drayton? I really don't have any opinion on SoFi. I don't know. I mean, if I knew, then I'd tell you, but I don't. So I'm not going to claim that I'm an expert at that. I'm good at technical analysis. I'm good at big stocks. SoFi is not big enough. Quantum Mechanic, $1.99. GFC low, i.e. market dropping for 6 more months. Yeah. So again, if we're in that kind of meltdown, just remember this. Generally, markets will fall for a bear market will usually last around 11 months. And I like to think they last between 12 and 18 months. Because that's I think the 11 is the average. So we're kind of getting on that technically. But we haven't seen the capitulation that you almost always see with these GFC lows. And that's why I'm saying that the VIX realistically should give us a 45. We should see XLY. We should see XLK doing better in this current rally. We're just not seeing that. Clearly, the American consumer is sick. And we can tell by looking at something like this as a combo. I mean, that's not the type of thing that I want to see. XLY versus XLP, consumer discretionary versus staples, is dropping. That's telling us that the market's moving defensive. If the market's moving defensive and we're going up, that's not the type of thing that makes me think, oh, it's risk on. Let's all dance and buy everything and it's all good. Could be wrong. It's just not what I've usually seen in the past and what I've studied in the past. It usually means we're in a holding style pattern of defensives beating the other parts of the market. And that's what happened here during 2018, 2020. We actually had a lot of defensives doing incredibly well here. They were smashing it. Barnsey, $5. Thank you very much. Australian too. Well done for staying up this late. Thanks for the great vids plus analysis. Capitulation when someone drops the word we can't say. Yeah, well, that would happen. That would also cause it. Barnsey, appreciate the donation. Mr. Marcus says, is this wave 5 down or wave 3? Well, that's the problem with Elliott wave. Which wave is it? You've got to now make the decision on whether you think it's, the turn or not. And waves can be very difficult from that aspect. Is this like the first? Which part of the wave is this? Where are we? Are we in wave 1 and then 2 and then 3? I mean, you have to. I think that Elliott wave's very, very, very tough to specifically pick key levels. What it's great for is if you're in like a 4, let's say 4 wave down, to say, okay, there's another drop off, which is kind of what a lot of people were talking about here. I don't blame them, and it's definitely great for that. So it's great to give you that clarity of mind to say, okay, I know that there's a great chance that this further wave is going to come through. Oculus Quest App Lab, NT $30. GFC has a Lehman moment. No systematic risk, though, in 2022. Not at this stage. There is systematic risk. It's just that they've stopped talking about it. I mean, technically, that bank Swiss stuff is problematic. Also, really, you've got an entire country, which is systematic risk. Japan. Well. Anyway, we've got 10 minutes to go here. We'll keep going through. Sam the man with $1.8 million, very lucky, $4.99. Are you bullish or bearish over the next 2 weeks on the SPY? I'd have to say probably bearish, but it depends on the inflation number, man. So bullish at the moment in this day, into bearishness, and then looking for the market, obviously, to possibly drop. Now, we were talking about options before. Here's my problem with them. Even if we go bearish, how bearish can we go? Now, this I don't even need to refresh it. This is the November put options. Take a look at this. 4.8 million units, 360 being a massive strike, and there's just puts all over the place down the bottom. So it kind of leans itself to up, down, up, down, kangaroo style until they expire a lot of these. That's at least what it leads into. The inflation number will obviously change that, but ultimately there's so many puts here that even if we drop down, there's still a great chance that we'll be spiking back above 360 to close a lot of these worthless. There's a lot of money at stake here. 4.8 million units. That's a huge amount of units. Let's have a look this week. I think the 9th, what do we get? The 11th, sorry, is going to be the close. And still only 811,000 here, 360 again being the biggest put. So a lot more opportunity to push around the market this week, should they wish to. Now the dollar's creeping down below the demand zone. We'll have a look. Yeah, it's down there at the moment. This is a very small demand zone. I'm still looking for it to find some buys. If it doesn't, where's the next area? Well, this is the reason you want to make sure you activate things, okay? Because if you don't, then you end up trying to predict something and you make mistakes. So this is our next level for the DX. We'll see what happens. We're only 8 minutes off the open here. Thank you very much for joining us. In general, we've got a lot of stocks that have been down for a while. I want to take a quick look here, though, at the market. And what I want to do is go into the US and have a look. Actually, yeah, I think I want to do the US and I want to look at the sectors. And I just want to show the last 20 days for these sectors, just so you can see the difference when you understand the different sectors. So oil and gas, what's the monkeypox concept? What's done so well in this monkeypox? Cigar Technologies. Okay. Anyway, other than the monkeypox concept, geez, I wish I was in that the last 20 days. 22% monkeypox concept. And then copper has done really, really well. So copper stocks have been flying. And that's a very interesting pick. I mean, generally, when you start to see copper doing better, it kind of says that the back end stimulation on the economy is coming through. So strange that we're seeing so many commodities do so well. Airlines, travel, that's where all the people have been buying. That's the big money here. Whereas if you look at the maybe the worst sectors, internet, hydrogen energy, the ones you guys like, Alibaba concept being good recently, but not good over the last 20 days. Search engines, gene editing, NFTs. So all these high PE stocks, it's just compressing anything that has the high PE, not that Alibaba does, and it's running with the monkeypox. Where's gold? Yeah, we'll check gold out now. So let's have a look at gold going through. So here's gold on the market. Now, I do kind of favor the idea of a little bit of a short coming in for gold, at least initially here, and then potentially dropping down just because it had such a beautiful rally, yeah, and then moving back around. I do like what I see in gold, though, and it's mostly got to do with the GDX. If you look at the stocks, you'll notice that they've been purchasing them. So clearly Wall Street has been moving into these, at least in my opinion. Look at the volume down here. Look at the recent volumes. Quite a nice base here on the GDX. And that's a sector of gold. Gold also tends to do decently well in December and January. Is that a surefire thing? Absolutely not. It's always risks, but yeah, I can see a little bit of a base here. And I think the main reason is because this is what the interest rates look like in 2023 now. Basically, we go up, we sit. What could that mean? Stagflation. And that's, I think, very good for gold, should it happen. GDX is a multi-year head and shoulders. Don't bother with multi-year head and shoulders. It's not, I guess what you're saying is, I don't even know how you're getting that. But anyway, yeah, multi-year head and shoulders, though, very unlikely to work out for you, unfortunately. So we're about 5 minutes off the open. I would take, if any of you guys want something quick fired, chuck it in the chat. I'll pick one out randomly and we'll do it. That'll be really good. Barrick has some of the sweetest financials right now. So it's interesting. I looked at Barrick, and Barrick's actually underperformed the GDX over the last 20 years. Barrick has been a horror show. So maybe it's time for turnaround, but historically, it's not been doing so well. Take a look at PLTR. Is it down more? I thought it was only down like 2%. We'll do a different one. Yeah, it's only down 2%. It's just sitting around these bases in the pre. TLT, Meta, Intel, DAX. I'll do DAX just out of courtesy. But DAX is broken out high. Look at the DAX. It's broken out high. It's even broken this high. I mean, based on the DAX, not that I think it controls itself. I think it's still dictated to by America. You'd think it's going a little bit more bullish and maybe even pushing that 14,000. But yeah, I mean, with the DAX, I don't have too many strong opinions on it other than it's made a new high. I mean, you can't deny that. And the next big resistance is sitting at 14,000, just underneath. Tesla update, please. Yep, we can do that. Vamps, how to draw tattoo coloring book pages. Thank you very much for joining and becoming a member. There we go, guys. Vamps, how to draw tattoo coloring book pages. Advert there. Thank you very much, Vamps, for becoming a member. Appreciate it. All right, here we go. Markets coming open. So we have effectively the US 500 here rallying today, comes off the non-farm payrolls lows and finds buyers each time. At this stage, we're looking at markets to rally from a technical perspective, obviously, and then we're seeing some supply that could be in here. Now, both of these locations are where we expect potential markets to weaken. And the main reason is because they're rallying, they've fallen for a reason. Remember, this was the Fed. We don't expect huge moves until the inflation number, which comes out later this week. Just remember that, guys. Core inflation number, Thursday, November the 10th. So you're going to probably stay in a kangaroo style range. You've got to be nimble and fast. Dollar index is on the lows right now. If the stock market goes higher, I guess dollar may fall further down into these lows again. But at this stage, it's still on demand. Gold, still at a point of potential weakness. So gold could turn even at this point here. There's obviously a high. You can see it's come really close to that level. But this is where gold, if it's going to come down, does turn. 2 minutes till the open. Let's have a quick look at some stocks here. Paul says here, well, it's a story that we might as well teach everybody. Friend bought PLTR at the low 20s and kept doubling down until he has no more liquidity. Lol. Well, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people did that. And I feel bad for people that do that because, of course, the double down is okay when you hear about it working well. Let's say you double down on Apple. Probably you've done okay. Let's say you double down on Tesla. It's probably worked out for you. But if you get it wrong, it can wreck you. And you could make 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%, and then all of a sudden you pick one and you get it wrong. It's all gone. It's all gone. So TLT coming in is a pretty heavy request. Let's have a look at TLT. It's still in around these 94.24s. I'm looking for TLT still at this point. Like, obviously I've thought about this level. I'm not going to say I didn't like it here. Before that, I didn't really care about it. But here, I definitely thought, yeah, it's worth nibbling on. At this point, I was looking for turnaround, which we didn't see. And this point here, I think, is going to be very interesting because this is where people say that it cracks the market, as in there's big problems financial stability-wise. Here's the head and shoulders. This is going for that head and shoulders guy. That is the completion, which sits us down here. All right, guys, the markets have just opened. So here we go. We've got the markets. Ding, 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 ding. We're ready for Monday. We've got copper down 2.47, obviously leading in here, pulling back into that pennant. The markets have started pretty rippy. So we've got 0.63%, a stronger day for the Nasdaq, which is good to see because the Nasdaq's been absolutely getting beaten down. We're looking for rallies, ideally, into potentially some weakness later on through the session. Can it do it? Gold barely holding that little bit of a short here that's come through before. It should have already shorted. So it's been sitting here for a little bit too long. It needs to kind of turn right now if it's going to do so. Lisa Autry says, always enjoy the live stream. Appreciate it very much, Lisa. Thank you very much. When is divergence considered complete? When is it considered complete? Well, you look for divergence. I guess when it depends which indicator you're looking at. When I guess it would return back through the zero. Morning pump sell off in the afternoon. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I would like to see the DXY hold its own though at around this level and confirm to us that it's trying to. So let's say the DXY holds here, moves up, stock market moves up. gives us gives us a better idea that the stock market should then move down. It's a good morning here for the tech, 1.26% now for tech moving through. Wait, is that tech? No, that's right. That's the Russell. Tech is 0.76. So hyper stocks, my bad. What was this one? Oh, that's Square. So Square had its earnings and it came back pretty strongly. Just want to show you block. So again, a little base here for some of these hyper stocks. Some are dropping heavily, some are finding small bases. But overall, look, we're hoping for a small rally followed by potential weakness later on. Look at the DXY, look at the yields. That's the type of thing. Thursday is the blockbuster day. That's when you're going to have that really big follow through action. Supposedly banks will be a good short soon. Well, yeah, I mean, maybe you'd be very careful with shorting banks. They're most likely backstopped by the Fed and a few others. This is the XLF, so the financial sector. Big rally. If you believe there's financial instability, e.g. something like, I don't know, one of the European banks probably, that'd be a big issue. Kevin says, I bought the Russell last week for a swing, IWM. Congrats. What about Google? I actually don't mind Google's price at the moment. But again, it's from a trade perspective. The other day when it made that low was probably the day you wanted to pick it up. Look at some of these. Beam, anything to do with gene editing down very heavily today. It's a bit of a mix. Nothing too insane either way in terms of up or down. And we'll just check the sectors so you guys are aware. You always want to have a heat map. If you're interested, you can always get Tiger Brokers or something else, but it's nice to have a heat map and look at the 10-day percentage. So these are just the complete differences in the market. So remember, a few weeks ago, we had automobiles not doing very well. They're still stagnating. But now we've got, like, look at these ones. Internet and direct marketing retail slashed. Interactive media and services destroyed. You know, these two are very bad. Whereas on the other side, wireless telecommunications, often defensive sector. Then we've also got diversified metals and inflation-based stagflation kind of purchase. This market is purchasing stagflation style trades, which is just interesting. If we go to the percentage today, though, again, some of the best plays have been in those consistent ones. They're the ones that are coming out. These defensive assets have been good. Now, it's probably a little late to find them, but you need to be able to find these sectors, guys, to get relatively better performance. I mean, look at the metals. The last 5 days, 10%. And that's not just in one day. It's constantly rallying through each one of those sessions. Even today, that's been one of the best strengths. But look at some of these others. Just terrible. So it's a tale of basically two markets. The old economy versus the new economy. And it's not the new economy that's the strong one at the moment. Tesla did sell off at the open. It did. And it is actually pressing this demand zone. Again, if the market tips and just starts to go lower, I think it's real pressure here. And then we talk about 180. Junior silver miners are outperforming the GDX. That would be true. If gold's going, silver will usually follow, and silver will outperform. Think of it like this. Bitcoin is gold and Ethereum is silver. So when Bitcoin goes up, Ethereum goes up double. And it's very similar. They're like, it's almost the combo code. But it's the same the other way too. If it goes bad, it goes really bad. Uranium's doing well. Okay, interesting. All right. Well, look, we get here to the Monday. I've got some good daily shows coming this week, so I really appreciate the support on the channel. Hopefully this audio is coming through loud and clear. I made sure to buy a whole bunch of trash, which I've installed on the weekend. So now it is crispy, yeah? It's crispier than normal. Can someone just again confirm it's coming through that way? I hope it is. Went heavier in gold juniors a few months ago. Stagflation, here we come, says Nicole. Well, stagflation, you won't even care if we go into a deflationary boom. If the yields come down, gold should still do well. It is improving. Crispy, nice. I'm very happy. Oh. If anyone wants to start a YouTube and they want to know what this thing is, if it actually has improved it, I'll let them know. In fact, I'll give them a shout out. Roadcaster Pro 2. It's pretty good. It makes it easy. You press a button and it just kind of does things. Jim says, my volume is off and I can still hear you. That means I've infiltrated correctly there, Jim. I've infiltrated. All right. So where's that DXY? Where is it going? I just want to end up here with the DXY. Is it actually rallying? Or is it just sitting there doing nothing? And the answer is not much. I'm going to set a little alert up here. Wouldn't mind seeing the DXY above this zone. So we'll set a little alert, see what happens. And as I mentioned, gold, it's got to go down now if it's going to. And that doesn't mean I hate gold. I just think it, and this would be a bit nicer, yeah? Somewhere like that. No longer distorted. Yeah, it's improved it quite a lot. Also, never buy the Shure SM7B microphone unless you want to buy like thousands and thousands of dollars of gear. Thanks, Milos. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, I'll leave you at it. 1:30 a.m., 1:38 a.m. You got to love the US market to be up at these times. I do appreciate each and every one of you out there. This is the best market in the world. And you have to love it. You have to love it. Innovation still is key for an economy. And eventually, and the best thing about this, like I know a lot of people are suffering, but if the markets do end up coming a little bit more down, I mean, it could be that it's a great opportunity for many people out there. And I do hope that each and every one of you, whatever the opportunity is, gets the best one. And don't buy space. There you go. All right. Thanks very much, guys. Bye for now.